Hello everyone, welcome to an analysis of dance, where we discuss the movements and debuts of the Billboard Hot Dance charts in immaculate detail, with in-depth reviews of each debut each week. Well, we're finally starting to see the chaos as these charts have become the busiest they've been in a long time. Now, I wasn't really surprised considering some of the big debuts that were incoming, and yes, even though it's a shame that Kali Uchis didn't get an album of any capacity here, the fact that we got the big debut at the top alongside some other big debuts, yeah, it was a sign of this chart being completely unstable and likely to be absolutely destroyed, and this was the week that really proved it. And of course, that starts with our number one and a new debut this week, Yes and by Ariana Grande. Now look, I get that this one is probably going to stick around the top for at least a little bit. It's got huge streaming sales and radio is on board in a big way, but when you see the mixed reception and backlash to this particular song, yeah, it's a little bit concerning that this might not actually last at number one for a while. I mean, it debuted at number one on the Hot 100, but it's going to fall back across the board. That's interesting to note. But really, this knocked down Houdini by Dua Lipa at number two. And look, radio is slowing down with this one and streaming is starting to fall back considerably. This might be on its way out naturally, although it has comfortably locked its year-end list on the Hot 100, so I can't really argue there. But hell, what I expect to actually have more stability long term is Strangers by Kenya Grace at number three, where it's got considerable streaming and radio is still getting on board in a big way. This might actually stick around too, and even though it got knocked down by the 21 Savage album bomb on the Hot 100, it wasn't a big fall. It's gonna rebound next week. We'll have to see that. Hell, what could also provide a more organic challenge is Murder on the Dance Floor by Sophie Ellis-Bextor at number four, where it's got huge streaming and radio is slowly getting on board, but it's just not fast enough. We'll have to see how this one turns out. But what's thankfully in danger now is I'm Good Blue by David Guetta and Bebe Rexha at number five, where it's collapsing across the board and is now in serious danger, if not getting knocked off next week by Kygo and Ava Max's new single, of being victim to the 78-week rule. Thank God there. But the problem besides that though is the huge gap between number 5 and number 6, where Prada by Katsu Ray and D-Block Europe actually rebounded up to number 6, but it still just does not have the huge streaming margins to get even close to the bubbling under. We'll have to see how this one turns out. But thankfully, the rest of these aren't even close to challenging, with My House by Beyonce collapsing to number 7 as the streaming is still awful on this one. Let's see this get out of the top 10 soon. It's not good. And same deal with Ecstasy by Suicidal Idol at number 8, although it's collapsing across the board even harder there, so it fell below it. Thank God. But then there's Dreaming by Marshmello, Pink and Sting at number 9, where it's holding steady on streaming and sales and actually didn't get knocked down at all this week. I mean, I don't expect this to get much higher considering radio is not on board, but still, this is sticking around way longer than it should. Oh, and finally, Rush by Troye Sivan is at number 10. Look, it's collapsing across the board, and with the high debuts coming next week, this is probably going to fall off soon, and really I can't really complain as it's tied with You for his longest charting run. Good, it's nice to see this actually stick around and have some genuine staying power. But when we get to our falls and fall-offs, my god, the destruction here was insane. I mean, you had two songs that were already going to fall off regardless. On the good side, with XOXO Kisses Hugs by Barely Human and Horror Moves comfortably being caught between years and missing both here unless good. But also, sadly, Sleepwalker by Akiayura, Lanone and STM. A genuinely great song that was so close to surviving past recurrent rules, but unfortunately fell short. Yay, it's going to get caught between years too. Hell, along with those, we also lost I Love You Ho by Odetari and 9 Lives, the last remaining song from that album. Charming. But man, there was some pretty decent number of falls this week, so let's get the more predictable ones out of the way first. Leave Me Alone by Fred Again and Baby Keem took a slow hit down to 23. It's gonna stick around, don't worry there. And the collapsing radio means that On My Love by Zara Larsson and David Guetta just collapsed down to 48, so this might get caught between years. Lovely. Hell, I'm not really all that surprised that 42 by Diplo and Mara Morris took a big hit down to 26 off of its gains last week. That song is sticking around longer than I expected. All That Body Moving by Lisa Rose and Calvin Harris is down to 37. Look, the remixes are only going to boost this for so long here, let's be real. But then there are two songs that genuinely surprised me with their falls and both seem pretty close to getting knocked off entirely. The first of which being Both by Tiesto, 21 Savage and Bia collapsing down to 22, where it looks like Pop Airplay has finally rotated this one out and it really seems like that's the only format that's keeping it around. Really telling there, it might be gone next week too. The other surprise for me though is Who I Am by Alan Walker, Poochly Ariani 20 and Peter Elias down to 47 off the debut last week. No, not the fact that this fell, I was expecting this to actually be gone, but the fact that it survived a second week. Seriously, as much as it's really easy to clown on Alan Walker, he's got a very loyal fan base who are keeping his songs around for extra weeks, especially recently. This is the sort of song you wouldn't expect to chart for a second week, but here we are. But even with that, we had jumps and comebacks this week, and man, I am conflicted here. I mean, I'm not exactly happy about our return of Thank You Not So Bad by Dimitri Vegas and Like Mike, Tiesto, W&W, and Dido at 45. This song's got considerable streaming momentum across the world. It's actually going to stick around. Great. I mean, I can't really complain about Tuka Donka by Curse Devil, DJ Fuck You, and scored up to 38. That song's actually sticking around and doing decently well. That's pretty damn promising. But it also came with Bike So by Xanteria at 30, a song that might actually make the year-end list now. Yay. And along with that, I Saw by Lumia Thane is up to 32. I mean, it's a decent song, but it's really underdeveloped, and it feels weird that it's sticking around at all. So yeah, not really a net positive here. But if you want a really bad start to an honestly much bigger and solid list of debuts, it begins with number 50, Hypnotic Data by ODECORE featuring Odetari. Number 49, MONTAGEM Mysterious Game by Langooks. So moving on from that absolutely fucking awful creative decision by Billboard, we get to this song, and it's another no-namer that blew up on TikTok. Just wonderful. But I'll be honest, this one was actually a lot more interesting than I expected, and really feels like a huge fusion of all the TikTok genres that have gotten big recently. I mean, it's got the Brazilian funk touches in those instantly recognizable vocal samples, as well as the swing on the second drop that was surprisingly actually really fitting in the song, to the lo-fi sound with the smothered mix that honestly sounds actually really pretty with those synthesizers, to more house and Jersey club elements on those first and third drops where the kick is admittedly a bit quieter for me, but it still has enough room to really breathe against everything else here and creates a really unique atmosphere that I haven't really heard in a charting song recently. I mean, obviously it's a fragment, it does feel like it has a lot of things happening at once, but for even that standard, it's honestly really interesting, and I'm honestly really happy that this charted. It's a pretty damn good fragment. So yeah, fine enough. Check this out if you're interested. It's actually pretty damn solid. Number 43, Hideaway by Synapson featuring Holly.
You know I will run to you. Oh, the sun and the moon. It don't matter what you do. You know I will run to you.
Okay, seriously, the fact that I'm even talking about this sort of song is genuinely insane to me, and when you get to the story as to why this charted, oh dear god, it is a complete mess. So, you know Has Been Hotel, right? It's that animated series on YouTube that resulted in Addict by Silverhound charting and becoming a year-end list hit in 2020, and it's the sort of adult animated show that honestly I need to really get into, especially with it being released on actual platforms recently. Well, it turned out the reason that this song blew up is because of the YouTuber and beatboxer Verbalize, who reportedly spent up to $50,000 on a music video featuring his own animated character and one of the protagonists of the show in Charlie engaging in some light romantic moments together. Just what the fuck? Where the ending features Verbalize tied up to the bed and Charlie... Okay, you get the idea here. But with this absolutely insane premise out of the way, one of the scenes of this particular video went viral, showing Verbalize running away from Charlie, where it was able to be exploited into something completely different out of context. And because of that, and the fact that this song was the soundtrack to the entire video, yeah, this was able to actually chart on the hot dance charts. I mean, I don't know how long this is going to stick around, considering this is a very brief sort of viral moment song that I don't really expect to have a ton of staying power. But honestly, if it sticks around, I wouldn't actually complain, because I actually found this really damn solid, completely devoid of the context. I mean, Holly sounds great on the vocals, the drops have some genuine punch, there's a genuine groove here. This is the sort of song that you would expect out of the French producers that made it, and really when it sounds this good, I'm not really all that surprised that Verbalize decided to use this as his soundtrack. It's the sort of song that would never otherwise chart if you didn't have this sort of weird ass meme behind it. I mean, it's absolutely fun and really does does fit the vibes of Has Been Hotel, I get why Verbee's used it as well in that context. So yeah, it may only be here off of absolutely ridiculous circumstances and I don't really expect us to stick around, but if it does, I wouldn't really complain. It's a solid as hell song, I really liked it. Number 41, Black Ice by Subtronics and REZZ. This, on the other hand, okay, seriously, why the fuck are you working with Subtronics, REZZ? Subtronics is one of the worst producers in the modern dubstep scene, and with every song he releases, why the hell do we still keep this guy around? He's not good at all. I mean, it has been quite disconcerting seeing REZZ's own fall off. She's really been losing the ball recently with her recent singles, and even if that new song, Dysphoria, was actually really damn solid, that's not what we're talking about here. No, we're talking about this utterly boring and forgettable track that really is just a pain in the ass to listen to. I mean, I will admit it wasn't as bad as I was expecting, mainly down to a really dark atmosphere where the bass production is actually pretty damn solid. It builds up some genuine menace across the verses before the drops just come in and once again destroy any sense of build up at all. I mean, they're so incredibly mediocre, changing from Subtronics' typical empty and really forced dubstep sound that just sounds awful as always, to a mid-tempo sound by REZZ on the second drop that just does not work at all and flows so badly out of the first drop that it honestly sounds really out of place here. And when you suck out all the atmosphere of the song that has some genuine promise showing, this is just not good at all. And it's the sort of song where once again we have no reason to keep Subtronics around. Number 39, Drums by James Hype featuring Kim Petras. Well, I knew this would cross over this week. This song was released all the way back in 2023 by James Hype featuring Kim Petras on vocals, and the sort of song that I expected would cross over back then, but really, given that James Hype has really been known as a one-hit wonder thanks to Ferrari in the United States, I'm not all that surprised that he wasn't able to cross over again. Even more wild was that it took a Tiesto remix for this to actually cross over at all, where I have no expectations that this is going to last past this week. Lovely. Which is a damn shame because I actually like this one a fair bit. I mean, I will admit this sort of empty sounding tech house has really been the sort of thing that's had mixed results for me at best, especially nowadays where there's so much more atmospheric and really filled sort of mixes in tech house where this sort of sound just doesn't work as well for me. And I will admit the drops here do feel a bit empty, comprising of just percussion and bass with not really a whole lot going on besides that. It just feels a bit empty and anticlimactic for me. But Kim Petras sounds really damn solid here, and the groove is about as fun as you could ask for out of tech house, so honestly it's a really solid song regardless of that. Now for the Tiesto remix, okay, this one is just nowhere near as good. I mean, it goes for more of a future rave sound, and the drops do sound really flat as a result, especially with that buzzy lead that really does not do the song any favors. But still, I've heard worse remixes from Tiesto. This one's not as bad as I expected. I mean, this is obviously not going to chart come next week, but you know what? I'm glad it's here regardless. It's a perfectly solid song. I enjoyed this one. Number 16, No Man's Land by Marshmello and venbee.
When I'm running for myself, I'm holding on to hope, the struggle in the cold.
God, I am so fucking conflicted about this because on one hand, it's abundantly clear that Marshmello has been overworking himself and removing all of his unique style in favor of just chasing trends this past year. But on the other hand, if you're going to do that, at least you brought on venbee to break her one-hit wonder streak in the United States with this collaboration that unsurprisingly leads right more into drum and bass, and honestly, I actually found this really damn solid as well. Yes, it's absolutely not even close to an original sound from Marshmello where it's going for a liquid drum and bass approach with those really nice guitars and a really muffled atmosphere that I actually found really quite nice. But I'll be honest, you can actually sell it pretty damn well. It's not badly produced, which considering Marshmello's diversions recently, that's really saying something. And it does work well for venbee too, whose hushed vocals and genuinely really pretty vocal melodies really do work well here and create a really nice sounding mix that I honestly found really damn captivating. It's the sort of night driving vibe that this genre can really nail well. I mean, it's nothing special for the genre, but it at least does the basics right, and considering how much Marshmello has really fumbled in the past year, yeah, you know what, it's perfectly fine, I'll take it. Number 11, Deep in Your Love by Alok and Bebe Rexha. This is really really draining for me, because while I'm happy that Alok has been continuing to get some considerable momentum with this being by far his highest charting debut, it also came because of Bebe Rexha, who I just want to go away. She's really been oversaturating the market recently with these dance features. It's even more annoying in this case because on a compositional level, yeah, this is actually pretty damn solid. The bass has some intense knock against the shuffling percussion and pianos, where it actually develops into some trance-sounding drops that were honestly really damn impressive for me. I found them really quite captivating. The atmosphere is angelic as hell on this one, really matching the single artwork quite well and really sounding great here. It's just a shame that this production is wasted on goddamn Bebe Rexha, who has no personality to speak of, sounds completely bored, and with the awful vocal effects trying to harmonize with her own vocals, yeah, this just does not work for the song at all, and she drags this down to merely just okay for me. I mean, it's not bad. I'm happy that Alok at least did well here, and it's at least credible that this is his highest charting song to date, but still, I wish this was way better and way more interesting than it is. Probably skip this one too. And finally, and now here's the big one, the lead single from Ariana Grande's new album, and one that's surprisingly been getting a lot of really mixed reviews. I mean, I will admit I was going into this a little bit worried, given that I've not been a fan of Ariana Grande's lead singles for the past 2 albums, but when I heard that this was going more towards house and had some more twinkly electronic sounds to it, I still had some hopes here, and that was genuinely great too, because this is absolutely great. Now I get why some are hesitant in really liking this, because it's a Max Martin produced song, the production does feel a bit oversold at spots, and that bridge with the hush vocals really feels out of place and doesn't fit the vibe of the song whatsoever. I mean, for starters, the energy of the song is great, it's a blast to listen to, and even if that bridge again does take away some of the power, the rest of the song is so fun that I can't really argue too much about it. Hell, after a minute-long intro, then you get Ariana Grande on vocals, where her voice is sounding just as great as ever, as she delivers a snark kiss-off to all those dismissing her current relationship, where this sort of upbeat vibe shows that either. I mean, those twinkly synths, the really hard-hitting house production, the drops that are genuinely great, the more upbeat major key melodies that are really damn gorgeous. This entire song just has this huge serene atmosphere to it that really does work well for me. I mean, the fact that this even hit #1 at all is genuinely miraculous, and it's the sort of song that, while I don't expect to last at #1, especially given the conflicting feelings about it from fans, the fact that it's already gained some considerable radio support means that this is going to stick around, and honestly, I can't really complain. This entire top 4 has been really damn solid. And you know what, as much as this is going to divide some people, I think Yes and by Ariana Grande is the best of the week. Honourable runner-up, okay, it was a bit harder, but I'm probably going to give it to Runaway by Synapson featuring Holly, if only for the fact that it has a genuinely great groove for it, and even if the context behind it charting is a bit weird, it's a great song on its own, I can't really complain there. For worst though, yeah, it's going to go to that god-awful demo version of HYPNOTIC DATA credited under ODECORE, with this honourable runner-up easily going to Black Ice by Subtronics and REZZ for just being a complete mess. That song is not good at all. I really hope it goes away next week. Oh, and speaking of which, next week we're going to have that big debut from Kygo and Ava Max, and there are a few decently high debuts I can see happening, so we'll have to see how that all goes there. But yeah, that's all for this episode of an analysis of dance. See you next time.